Never a doubt. 17-point comeback for the San Francisco 49ers to defeat the Detroit Lions in the NFC Championship game. The 49ers are going to Super Bowl 58. How they got there, game balls, everything from the NFC Championship game coming at you right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Eric_Crocker. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love all the everydayers out there. See all of you already in the live chat here post game. And if you didn't get to the live YouTube, we appreciate you jumping in the car first thing in the morning, I'm sure, on your way to work, reveling in a San Francisco 49ers victory, 34-31 over those Detroit Lions. Moving on to Super Bowl 58. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code, all lowercase, LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Croc, what were your thoughts at halftime? And be honest.
Honest assessment, man. I knew the 49ers got the ball at halftime. I just knew they had to score. Like, you don't score here, you lose. And it was a time where it felt like, man, they need 7. But the fact that you got 3 and made it a 2-score game, to me, is 1 possession at a time. I'm very optimistic in that way. I kind of know the way football works. But I was probably more optimistic than a lot of people. But I knew they had to come out and they had to get points.
Here were how the second half possessions ended for the San Francisco 49ers. Down 17. Field goal. Touchdown. Touchdown. Field goal. Touchdown. Kneel down. Victory formation. Pumped up Brock Purdy running off the field. Hugs abound. Just an unbelievable game, and amazing how different those first 2 halves were. The 49ers couldn't do anything right in the first half, much like it was the first half against the Green Bay Packers. And I was thinking at halftime, Croc, maybe we were just wrong about this team all along. Maybe the 49ers just weren't that good, and they got into the playoffs, and they weren't the team, the right team at the right time. Maybe that's what it was. And then they came out in the second half, and they said, oh, yeah, that wasn't us. That wasn't us. Here we go. Let's do this now. You want to come back? This is a real comeback. Croc, was that enough points for you for a comeback? Because there was some talk that maybe, that wasn't enough points you came back from last week. How about 17 points in the second half in the NFC Championship game, Croc?
Well, I don't think Keyshawn Johnson will say this is not a comeback. Yeah, I thought he was a little right. Last game, like, you're down 7 points. Like, is it really a comeback? Like, is that enough points? When the 49ers were down 24-7 in this game, I said they come back. Like, this is a comeback. Like, this is a comeback. And shout out to all the 49ers. I know we're going to give game balls out and everything, but there were very specific plays. I just remember where it was just like, okay, you got it, right? And, the first play, Juwan Jennings, you had Purdy rolling to his left. He flicks it out there, does what you are not supposed to do. He threw it high. He threw it over the middle. He threw it late. And Juwan Jennings reaches up with one hand, brings it in for a first down. I thought that was a huge play. And then maybe the next drive or so, Purdy throws it as far as he can downfield, hits a Lions secondary player in the face mask. And then Brandon Ayuk says, don't worry about it. I got y'all. Dives over the guy and makes a catch. I thought he potentially scored a touchdown. And then a little bit later, you had Christian McCaffrey. He did a terrific job. And Brock Purdy, I felt like he never really wavered. It wasn't going his way in the first half, but he started making plays, and he made a lot of plays with his legs that were really backbreaking. You needed those. He gave them to you. Terrific job. Like, those were, to me, like, just the backbreaking moments to the Detroit Lions as far as their defense and what got going for the 49ers offensively.
And with how things were going for the 49ers in the first half, it was going the other way for the Detroit Lions. And I thought clearly the 49ers got out-coached in the first half, especially the Ben Johnson offensive coordinator of the Lions against Steve Wilkes' defense. They couldn't do anything right. They couldn't stop him on the ground. Goff was undefeated on third downs, keeping drives alive. They were putting points on the board, and the 49ers just could not stop them. They could absolutely not stop them. And then all of a sudden, you take a little break at halftime and you come back, and the 49ers started scoring. And they started getting a couple stops on defense. Then the Lions started getting a little tight, dropping a couple passes. Then the 49ers started making some bigger plays, started to get a little momentum. And then you started to feel it swing. And really, once it got to within 7 points, that I felt that swing strong. It was like, the 49ers are coming back in this game, because at that point, the fourth down stop by the 49ers, there were 2 huge fourth down stops by the 49ers in this one.
Real quick, talk about those fourth down stops. I got a bone to pick, and I'm excited that it went the way it did. Right, you being aggressive, and that was one of the things I talked about prior to this game. Like, man, when you have a coach that's calling plays and calling games to win the game as opposed to not lose it, you kind of have to be scared of that guy, and it definitely backfired and did not work in the Detroit Lions to their advantage. But he killed me on PrizePicks. Bro, kick the damn field goal. I need one more field goal from your kicker, and I would have hit for $400. This dude's over here playing with people's money. I'm excited with the way it went, but I would like to be, $400 richer.
Hey, if they kick one of those field goals, that's a tie football game at the end, Croc. That goes a lot different. So I don't think anybody in the chat right now is going to be crying about your pocket.
Yeah, they're like, Croc, forget your $400.
You live and die by it, and they didn't, the Lions don't have stripes, but they didn't change their stripes in this one. They're going to be aggressive. They're going to go for it. And that's who they were. And they lived by it all season long, and they ended up dying by it at the end. But you have to credit the 49ers for making those stops on fourth down. The 49ers came up huge. And I've seen it a lot in the chats too. I think it was Alex that said, my apologies to Steve Wilkes for the things I said about him in the first half, because I don't know if it was adjustments, if it was the players, if it was scheme, but it was a different team that came out of the tunnel in the second half. And again, for the second week in a row, Croc, the way this team is wired, the team of characters that John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have put together, they do not fold, they do not quit. And they've come back in 2 playoff games in a row now.
That was huge, man. That was something that we wanted to see throughout the year. And we knew, right? Like, that was the big topic of conversation. I felt all along like the 49ers are going to be in the NFC Championship game. Like, they're going to be playing for an opportunity to win the Super Bowl, or go to the Super Bowl. I always felt like that. Everything during the year when people were like, oh, you guys are being too critical, or why aren't you so happy? It's like, the standard isn't just to win this game or just to lose this game. It's about making a checklist, checking off certain things, knowing the 49ers can do certain things. And throughout this year, we just didn't quite see it. And then lo and behold, twice in the playoffs, we knew we would kind of have that opportunity, or it would come down to it, but you do it twice, that is big time stuff. And I feel like led by not just, Kyle Shanahan and the squad, and we talked about guys making plays, but Brock Purdy, because regardless of everything else that's going on, the guy at quarterback, like, he can't falter, right? He can't start to really feel that pressure. And both times, no matter how the game was going, he said, all right, like, I'm going to make plays, I'm going to make throws, whether it's just only the last drive against Green Bay, and people didn't give a lot of, credit for that. But definitely after this game, I don't think there will be any discussion about, can Brock Purdy do this or that? He was a gamer. He made plays when needed. And it was really exciting to watch, really just his growth throughout this year.
All right, lots more to get into about this game. How did we get here? The San Francisco 49ers, it's going to be a fun couple of weeks here, are in Super Bowl 58. It is a rematch against the Kansas City Chiefs. Ton to get into about that game, but let's finish up the conversation in this episode, Croc. Give out our game balls from the NFC Championship game win over the Detroit Lions. Next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers at PrizePicks. Instead of battling against thousands of other players, it's just you against the stat projections at PrizePicks. There's no pros. There's no sharks in the pool you're playing against. It's just more or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections. And watch those winnings roll in. We're talking winning up to 25 times your money at PrizePicks. Turn $10 into $250 at PrizePicks, like Croc nearly did, and thankfully he didn't, because we didn't need another Detroit Lions field goal on Sunday. PrizePicks offers a reboot policy as well. It's the only DFS platform that offers injury insurance. If a player that you have picked on your PrizePicks roster gets hurt in the first half, doesn't return in the second half, that player is rebooted. Nobody else does that for you, but PrizePicks does. And if you want to get involved at PrizePicks, all you got to do is go to prizepicks.com/lockedonnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. So download the app or go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
And Peacock, I want to clarify one thing about the going forward and the money. Yeah. I was hoping he kicked that last field goal, and instead he went for it and scored a touchdown.
Okay.
I needed that field goal. So I'm screaming at the TV, like, take the points. Like, that's the logical thing to do. Just take the 3 and then kick the onside and 49ers get it and all that. But they went for the touchdown, and I missed out on it. So,
that run play, and the 49ers are going to win that game, but it would have given the Lions a path to try to do something at the end. If you have to throw it in the end zone there, right? If you're trying to score or kick the field goal. But that running play, they got stuffed on third down. Montgomery, huge stop by the 49ers. Really, you had to take a timeout then. And just they're going to second guess Dan Campbell for some of those things. But that's what got him there too. So I don't think, and like, it's easy for us to say, hey, good job, Lions. You had a good season. There's going to be people hurting in Detroit, right? They were rooting for their football team. And by the way, the turnout they had at Ford Field, and they're still there. Those are some diehard fans. And, if it wasn't for the 49ers, I might've been rooting for the Lions as well in this one. And a lot of people were rooting for the Lions just because of the story, just because they hadn't been there. So good season for the Lions. They should hold their heads up high, but this one's going to hurt for them because they had it. And there was probably people, Croc, at halftime buying plane tickets to Las Vegas, right?
Yeah, I think it was Mayoko or Barrows talked about how they bought a flight and canceled a flight 37 times during that game to Vegas. I do want to say one thing about him, right? Like Dan Campbell and his aggressiveness, it wasn't the same as the Chargers head coach.
Yeah,
how he did. I mean, Chargers head coach, it'd be 4th and 2, and he's going for it in his own territory. Like, that's crazy. That's terrible. And I can understand why Dan Campbell did. The conventional thing to do in those situations would be to kick a field goal. But I think the reason he even got to this game is because they are aggressive and they do things like that. So they didn't change who they were. And it's unfortunate for them. It bit them in the butt. But I have a feeling this is not the last time you'll see Dan Campbell in the playoffs. So he's going to continue to be that aggressive guy, but it just hurt them against the 49ers tonight.
Probably the last game Ben Johnson's the offensive coordinator for him, though, too. So we'll see what they're able to do if that hurts him. And Adam Peters over in Washington now, 49ers former assistant GM. Now the GM in Washington might be hiring, according to some rumors out there, that Ben Johnson might be their guy and the new head coach for the Washington Commanders franchise. And so, if you're going to lose, if you're not an offensive minded head coach and you're not calling plays and you lose the guy who is calling plays and coordinating your offense, it can be a big loss. So that's an interesting one to look at going forward for the Detroit Lions. RG says Locked On better send Peacock to Vegas. Unfortunately, there's not going to be a Peacock in Vegas. It didn't end up happening this year, and it's probably too late for us to even figure that out now on our own. Because they
got to spam. You guys go spam the Locked On people and be like, send Peacock and Croc to Vegas. Send them to Vegas right now. Go spam them in DMs on Twitter. Tag them and make it happen.
Let's get a suite. Let's get a sweet ass suite. All right, Croc. It's time for some game balls here. Any other thoughts you have on the game? Just unbelievable the way this went. Not only how about this with the way it started? Let's go back to the very beginning of the game, because do you remember what our keys to victory were, Croc? It was things like this: start fast, stop the run, don't let it come down to a field goal. The first 3 things that happened in the game was Detroit came out and scored in 4 plays, and then the 49ers couldn't do anything, and they couldn't stop the run. And it was like, that is the biggest thing you had to do, and you weren't doing it. It was not a path for the 49ers to win. It's unbelievable they got to where they got and won that game. And then Moody goes and misses a field goal. It was like, well, you just throw out the whole keys to victory episode. But again, it was a different team in the second half. But the way it started and the way it was going, and it didn't look like that. Like, I don't know what happens at halftime. Do you remember the Super Bowl against the Ravens with the power outage? It was that level of like just completely flipping, because that was a different team. There were different guys inside the uniforms in the second half than in the first half.
Yeah, especially even on the D line, and even at times, second half, they still got gashed. You know, the biggest thing, and hopefully the Kansas City Chiefs can't wait to dive into that game and some of the matchups there, but hopefully they aren't able to do something that I think Detroit did extremely well, which was keep the 49ers off balance. As a play caller, and I've done this at different times where you almost feel like, what do I call? Like, nothing is working. When you're able to run as well as they were running, and then now you're able to do play action stuff. They did it even coming out of halftime, hit a play action on the first play out of halftime for them to Laporta in the flat, and he got a nice little chunk yardage there. It is extremely difficult to call plays. Like 49ers, what they've done well this year, throughout the year, was make teams one-dimensional. All right, we're going to take this away. So now you can't really run the ball. Offensive scoring points. You have to play catch up. And now we kind of have you at your mercy. We know what you're doing, and we're able to play from there. In situations where teams have been able to make the 49ers be more honest defensively, they've struggled. Whether it's the Vikings game, even though they weren't running for a huge yard per clip, but they were able to run, and they kind of set up their third down passing game, short yardage situation. Cincinnati Bengals, think about how they lost that game. I mean, Mixon had almost 100 yards rushing on the ground. He ran very well. A big part of it was when they couldn't stop the pass or the run, kept the 49ers off balance. And same with the Lamar Jackson Baltimore Ravens game. So the 49ers in this game, for really most of the game, they were so off balance. It was extremely difficult for Wilkes to just call a good game defensively.
Love what Daniel says in the chat. He says, that's a young team. CJ Gardner-Johnson was waving by in the first half. Reynolds was laughing when he missed that catch. They lost all the momentum. I noticed that after that, like they thought it was gravy. They're like, we're good. The Reynolds was laughing. He's like, oh, just see how I dropped that pass. No big deal. We got a big lead. We're going to go win this game and go to the Super Bowl. I did remember seeing that, and just the shots of the zoomed in camera shots of Kyle Shanahan, right? And the look on his face is like, he's like, well, you know, the way he's talking to Brock Purdy, and he's like, I don't know if the 49ers have any answers right now. And that's why I said it's a different team in the second half. It's pretty unbelievable.
The answer right away for the 49ers offensively in the second half was definitely figuring out different ways to get the ball in Deebo Samuel's hands.
Yeah.
At the line of scrimmage, you know, some deep crossers, whatever it is, we need to get Deebo Samuel the ball. They did it early. They did it often in the second half, and really up until like maybe even like the last drive. Like, it was a big focal point coming out of halftime. How do we get Deebo Samuel involved so he can make some plays? And he did a terrific job. I think that got everybody going. That got Brock Purdy going. That got the offense going. Juices flowing. You got Kyle Juszczyk, you know, making sideline catches, and Brock Purdy making special plays, whether with his legs and with his arm. But I think a lot of it started with Deebo Samuel and getting him going. That was a big adjustment in the second half.
I got to give Brock Purdy my first game ball, Croc. The scrambling ability, the legs, making plays when he needed to in the second half, making some throws, the escape job he did on the near sack, and then hitting that sideline toe tapper to Kyle Juszczyk. Just the two big scrambles at the end of the game as well. He was moving. He was scooting a little bit there. Big chunk gains too. I love it. Love seeing him just fired up after kneeling down at the end of the game. Phenomenal performance by Brock Purdy, especially in the second half. He made some big throws early in the game too, because nobody was playing well in the 49ers except for Brock Purdy a little bit early, and then things got weird there. Obviously the ball was tipped, or his hand was hit when he was throwing on that interception, so you can't put that fully on Brock Purdy. Christian McCaffrey was, you know, obviously he always comes to play, but, you know, offensively and defensively, there wasn't many guys that came to play in the first half of the game, and then in the second half, just started making tons of plays. Brock Purdy, there's no quit in him. We've seen that. We have to recognize what Brock Purdy is, and he's a winner. The way he competes, no matter what the scoreboard says, it's phenomenal, and a playmaker. And he made plays in this one when it counted. But in 2 weeks in a row now, he's done that.
Nah, he did an amazing job, man. I mean, there were some wonky moments, right? He threw a ball early down the sideline to Brandon Ayuk, and it was weird. Like, did Ayuk kind of stop running, or did he?
And then Ayuk was yelling about something, so definitely a miscommunication on that one.
Yeah, that was weird. And then, like you said, there was some tip balls at the line of scrimmage. He's getting passes batted down. And the biggest thing I feel like he does exceptionally well, he just didn't get rattled. Like he missed some throws. He did this. He was under 500 at halftime, under 50%. Excuse me, completion percentage at halftime. Like really not hitting the throws. Offense couldn't get going, and he just kept letting it rip. Even the play downfield to Brandon Ayuk. Like I don't know what the hell that was. It hit the guy in the face mask, and Ayuk dives over him and makes an amazing catch. But just the fact that he's like, I'm gonna let it rip. Like I'm gonna throw it out there. I'm gonna give my guy an opportunity to make a play. And then you talked about some of it with his legs. Everyone's gonna focus. I see somebody in the chat say 9.6 yards per carry or whatever. To me, it was the play that he made with his legs where he threw the ball. Like a great play. Not supposed to do it. Threw across his body to Juwan Jennings. One-handed catch. Like that was awesome. The play to Kyle Juszczyk, it doesn't get much better than that. You escape the sack, you roll out, and you just hit it. You throw this ball to the perfect spot, the only spot really you can kind of throw it there, and Juszczyk makes a terrific play, just how he caught the ball and kept his feet in bounds. But Brock Purdy can't say enough positive things about how he performed in this game. And I think if there's any thoughts of the game manager type thing and whatnot, it looked a little weird early on, but I think he beat those allegations for sure after this performance.
No doubt. Another good point about the CJ Gardner-Johnson thing with Debo in the chat as well. I hope somebody was mic'd up, and I want to see some footage after the game and see what happened there, because there has to have been a lot of trash talk there. And CJ Gardner-Johnson gets into it with everybody, and especially with the way that game went. And I would love to hear what those conversations were, even with some bleeps, which I'm sure a lot would be needed, about what was said after the game between those guys. Fun stuff there. Okay, next, let's finish it up. Give out game balls, NFC Championship game style, and finish up this episode as the 49ers are headed to Las Vegas. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by BetterHelp. Sometimes we all need the opportunity to get something off our chest, big or small. Certain things can really start to get to you. It's important to let that out, especially to someone who's unbiased in your life. Don't let that small thing become a big thing either. You got to let it out. And look, there's things that in life that are a lot more important and bigger problems than your favorite sports team. But I know sports teams can create a lot of problems in people's lives. And no doubt some Lions fans might need some therapy after this one. They've needed therapy for 30 years, right? And therapy can be different for everyone. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. And all you got to do is visit betterhelp.com/lockedon and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon, and get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp. All right, we got Brock Purdy, Brandon Ayuk with the catch. Croc, I got to give a game ball to Brandon Ayuk. That was an unbelievable catch. Then he had the touchdown right after it, and that was the moment where it was like, okay, maybe the Lions aren't the team of destiny. Maybe the 49ers do have something going here. That was a huge one, the catch, to stay with it, make the catch, and obviously score the touchdown as well. I thought this was going to be a big Ayuk game, and he had a nice game, but really Brock Purdy spread it around to a lot of different people in his performance in this one.
Nah, he did a terrific job. And Brandon Ayuk, I like that you brought him in, and it was tough. You know who we're not giving the game ball to? Probably Wilkes. Halftime, even with the halftime adjustments, I don't know if it was more being opportunistic by the defense as opposed to just being good or having a good game plan. So Wilkes, I'm not letting them off the hook. Shout out to the 49ers for rebounding. A lot of good players forced a fumble early on in that third quarter. Guys made some plays, but I feel like the Lions, they continue to still drive down the field. They still continue to kind of get some things going but obviously they just kind of ran into a situation where they went for it multiple times on fourth down. Wilkes, not sure he'll be getting the game ball for this coaching performance.
Yeah, no, that it'll be tough to give Wilkes a game ball in this one. I like how they played in the second half, obviously, but there was some gaps on the Lions side too, with some of those drops and the Gibbs fumble. And anytime you have a game that goes that crazy, there's going to be a lot of weird stuff that happens. And there's a lot of weird stuff that happened to the 49ers in the first half, and then even more weird stuff that happened to the Lions in the second half. Debo led the 49ers in receiving. He had the 8 catches, 89 yards, 68 yards receiving for Brandon Ayuk, the huge catch, and then a touchdown catch as well. And, of course, you got to give a game ball to Christian McCaffrey. By the way, something that we're going to have to keep tabs on, Christian McCaffrey hurt his neck on that play right before, because they put Elijah Mitchell in to score that last touchdown, because he kind of toppled over and hurt his neck, and you saw him. He looked like he was in a lot of pain on the sideline after that, the play right before the touchdown, the long run from Christian McCaffrey. And they were working on his neck on the sideline. It looked like he was in a lot of pain. And so something to keep tabs on. 49ers going to have a couple weeks here to get ready for this Super Bowl matchup. But you got to have Christian McCaffrey out there. 20 carries, 90 yards. They're a good run defense team, the Lions are. But he was still finding space when he needed to. A couple of really nifty runs, 2 touchdowns for Christian McCaffrey. He had 4 more catches for 42 yards through the air. Phenomenal performance from Christian McCaffrey, and just continues to do the little things, those little moves he makes in the hole to find more space. It is phenomenal. So fun to watch Christian McCaffrey play. He gets a game ball for sure.
Yeah, definitely. He ran extremely hard. He found those little creases, and even when there weren't really creases there, he found a way to pick up some yards. They really kind of highlighted that on a couple of his runs. He also did a good job catching the ball. Now, last game against the Packers, he had 12 targets. Not quite that target share in this game, but with the opportunities he had, he made sure he caught the ball and it set the 49ers up in short yardage situations.
Did you see the Lions on that last Lions drive, the tight end that caught the pass and ended up going out of bounds? Ferkser, I think his name is Ferkser. They said it was his first catch all year. Have you ever seen an NFL player turn that slow? It was like, oh, there's a touchdown. He could not turn and get up the field. I was like, what are you doing, man? Was he injured? That was crazy. Like, that could have given the Lions a much better opportunity to potentially, Niners run the ball 3 times and punt it back and maybe have some desperation offensive drive in them at the very end of the game. But it was not to be for the Lions. And I'm looking at that tight end like, man, that's the guy you're going to go to in this moment. He can't even turn 90 degrees and get in the end zone. He was by himself.
And it was almost like a play that was kind of designed to have him free in the flats. And you're right, he couldn't turn that corner and get upfield. He scored a touchdown right there. You have all 3 timeouts. That's an ideal situation for them, to where now it's like, all right, 49ers are going to have to run the clock a little bit, maybe run the ball. We can load up and potentially make them throw it, or use all 3 timeouts and punt and get the ball back. But because he got stopped there, that ended up being a big missed opportunity for them. They had to end up running 4 plays, use a timeout. Not ideal.
Any more game balls you want to give out in this one? The chat's on fire right now. I'm having a lot of fun here. Lots of folks. We have like 1,000 people in here live hanging out with us, which is always a lot of fun after a big win like this.
I'd say to the team, I think maybe this starts with Kyle Shanahan and we give him a game ball, but in a moment like that, we have seen teams hang it up and quit, right? Like, just nothing is going your way. It definitely wasn't for the 49ers in the first half, but the team kept swinging. And I think that is a big vote of confidence to who the coach is and what he instills in his players, feeling like, all right, like, let's just continue to make plays. And having those guys out there that do make plays. So shout out to, the head coach there, just instilling that kind of confidence in his team.
I don't know if you can see this. My 5-year-old son dropped me this note. It says the 49ers won. So there you go.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go, Leo.
That should be the title of this podcast. The 49ers won against all odds. Unbelievable game.
Super Bowl game, man. It almost feels like, because really 49ers, they've kind of been all or nothing. But since 2011, I mean, this is the third Super Bowl we've seen the 49ers in. And I don't know how many conference championships we've seen the 49ers in during that time. So just to see the 49ers that often, you can almost kind of take these moments and these games for granted. But it is really cool to see the 49ers be on that quest for 6, but have another legit opportunity. Now you just got to take out the boogeyman over there.
Oh, the boogeyman. We're seeing Dre Greenlaw with votes for a game ball in the chat. Kyle Juszczyk. Efren says, give Brock Purdy a second game ball, Crocker.
Yeah, well, you gave him a game ball. I gave him a game ball and kind of doubled down. If you want to give him a third game ball for how he played, we'll give him a game ball for this. He got a game ball as a quarterback and as a running back because he used his legs, and the 49ers needed that, and those were back-breaking plays.
Bosa with 2 sacks. That's a good one. Bosa was playing out of his mind, going up against Penei Sewell a lot. Man, they move Penei Sewell around so much, and he's so athletic, getting out on the move. That's a tough team to play against, too, because they're physical, and the way they're running the ball, like, it blows my mind, Croc, because that is the deadliest of combinations. You have a multi-score lead, a 2-score lead, then a field goal, and the team you're playing against can't stop your run game. How do you lose that game? Like, that is the recipe the 49ers have used for all of their wins ever in the Kyle Shanahan era. You got to lead. The other team's now one-dimensional. You're not one-dimensional. They can't stop us on the ground. No way you're going to win this football game. It's really unbelievable what the 49ers were able to do in the second half.
I'm still in shock at how it happened and how fast it happened. Maybe because of that kickoff return. I mean, not kickoff, that fumble right after a kickoff return, early in the third quarter after a 49ers score. But just the way it happened and how, I mean, it was down 24-7 heading into the third quarter, and it's 24-24 heading into the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
It happened pretty fast.
Yeah.
I don't know. Now it's like, okay, now it's 0-0.
Yeah, they didn't have an opportunity. They ran one play, and the running back fumbled, and all of a sudden, Niners had put up 10 points. And it's like, oh, they're within a score now, and now all of a sudden, that momentum's changed. That momentum is gone. Everything you had, it's gone because halftime, boom, boom, score. Whoops, there it goes.
And not only that, but you had the 24-24 heading into the fourth quarter, and the 49ers were driving, and they were in scoring territory already. You typically don't see that.
Oh, so much more about this game, the upcoming game, the biggest of games, Super Bowl 58, 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs now is set. And of course, Croc and I will be here with you every single day, breaking all of the angles down as we get ready for another 49ers and Chiefs Super Bowl. Love all the everydayers. Appreciate everyone that showed up in the live chat today. Everyone listening on Monday morning, a Victory Monday. Happy Victory Monday to all of you. Croc and I back tomorrow right here, Locked On 49ers.
Subscribe to this video. Subscribe to my dad's podcast.